The result I wanted, but truthfully the result I wanted was to see if I could still do it. But I didn't quit, never give up, never retreat, never surrender, fight to the end, go out on your shield. Time is the fire in which we all burn. But I gave it my absolute all, and I have nothing but respect for Chase. I have no excuses. He was the man who won. He deserves this victory. Truthfully, completely, and honestly, I'm actually very proud of him. And I'm glad to know that Misfits have a true champion, because he is a true champion. So I'm not disappointed in myself. I don't operate from that frame. The only way I would be disappointed in myself is if I was too scared to fight at all.
Here's the thing. Now that the dust from the Tate fight has settled, we can finally talk straight without all the hype and excuses. Looking back, this wasn't controversial, it wasn't unlucky, and it definitely wasn't close. This was a textbook case of cherry-picking going sideways, loud and clear. For years, Andrew Tate has sold the image of a dangerous, disciplined fighter. A guy who claims he understands violence, pressure, and dominance better than almost anyone. You've seen the clips, pad work, old kickboxing highlights, endless talk about still being in elite shape. On paper, there was no reason to doubt him. He had real experience, real wins, and real titles. So the logic was simple. Even if he wasn't flawless, surely he'd be prepared enough to handle what was in front of him, but that idea fell apart fast. From the opening rounds, something felt off. Tate didn't look sharp, he didn't look relaxed, and worst of all, he didn't look comfortable once the fight started going a direction he didn't control. As the rounds dragged on, it got harder to ignore. He was gassed, slow, struggling with basic boxing fundamentals. That's what threw people the most. This wasn't supposed to be a guy showing up half-ready. Tate has money, resources, connections, a full team of people who live and breathe combat sports. You'd expect a camp locked in and airtight. Instead, what we saw looked like a fighter who trained for one very specific version of the fight. And the second it didn't play out that way, panic set in. When you look back at the training footage posted on Rumble, it starts to click. The camp looked intense, sure, but intensity doesn't automatically mean smart training. Most of the sparring shown was against smaller guys, kickboxers, or his own friends, people he's likely been sparring with for years. And that's a huge problem. Familiarity is the enemy in real fight prep. Sparring with people who know you, respect you, and won't push you into ugly situations builds a fake sense of confidence. You don't learn how to adapt like that. You don't learn how to survive chaos. You don't learn what to do when Plan A collapses. And that showed, loudly. The best sparring partner we actually saw was Benjamin Adegbuyi, a legit high-level kickboxing champion. But even then, that comes with limits. He's still a kickboxer, not a pure boxer. And there's zero clarity on how often they sparred or how hard those sessions really went. That opens up a massive question. Where were the real tests? Where were the big, rough heavyweights whose only job was to lean on Tate, smother him, grind him into the ropes, and force him to work when tired? Where were the rounds designed to break his gas tank and stress his conditioning? Because here's the truth. If Tate was genuinely sparring guys who matched the opponent's size, pressure, and style, someone in that camp would have seen the red flags early. The fatigue, the pacing issues, the lack of adjustment. None of that shows up overnight. This didn't look like bad luck. It looked like bad preparation. And when the lights came on, there was nowhere to hide. Early fatigue doesn't just pop up out of nowhere on fight night. That stuff shows itself way earlier, deep in sparring. Either Andrew Tate wasn't being pushed hard enough, or nobody around him was being real with him.
I said, Andrew, you're 40 years old. You just got out of jail. You've been through so much. You have so many problems and so much going on. Why would you do this? Why would you risk it all? Why would you get in there? And I felt a tinge of fear for the first time in my life. And that's when I knew I had to fight. Because the second I felt afraid, I knew I had to fight. I can't live doubting myself. Seeds of doubt grow into forests of inaction. I don't operate that way. If Chase and I had to fight again tomorrow, I'd go tomorrow still with 100% belief in myself, even though I know he just beat me. That's who I am. The second I knew that, I was worried about it, I knew I had to do it. And I'm not afraid to lose. I'm afraid to not try.
And that's where camp dynamics matter more than people want to admit. Loyalty sounds nice, but loyalty without honesty gets fighters hurt. Tate clearly has a tight bond with his coach, and that's not the issue. The problem is that there were plenty of experienced people in that room. At no point did anyone step in and say, this isn't enough, or we need uglier rounds, or this fight is going to be way harder than you think. Instead, it looked like everyone leaned on his past experience and assumed it would carry him through. That belief quietly set the trap for everything that went wrong later. Now let's talk about what actually happened in the ring, because this is where the excuses fall apart fast. Early on, Tate didn't look awful. He was calm, moving, trying to settle into a rhythm. But almost immediately, Chase D'Amour made it clear what kind of fight this was going to be. Chase closed distance, he leaned, he clinched, he forced Tate to carry weight round after round. And none of that was dirty. None of that was unfair. That's heavyweight boxing. Bigger fighters are supposed to do exactly that. Sap your legs, drain your gas tank, make you work even when nothing clean is landing. The idea that clinch work is some kind of excuse for fatigue is nonsense. If you don't have answers for that style, you're going to drown. And that's exactly what happened. As the rounds stacked up, Tate's movement slowed. His hands started dropping. His breathing became obvious. And once the fatigue hit, something way more concerning showed up. Nothing changed. No adjustments. No reset. No shift in tempo. He fought tired the exact same way he fought fresh. That's one of the biggest warning signs you can see in a fight. Good boxers don't live on plan A alone. They have survival instincts. They know how to buy time, break rhythm, control clinches, slow the pace when things start slipping. Tate didn't do any of that once the gas tank dipped. The fight stayed completely on Chase's terms, and that's why the better boxer argument doesn't hold up. You can look sharper on paper. You can look cleaner in pad work. But boxing isn't judged on how smooth you look when everything is perfect. It's judged on what survives when everything starts breaking down. The better boxer is the one who adapts under pressure, not the one who only looks good in controlled settings. And what made this even worse is that none of these problems were surprising. They were predictable. And predictability at this level gets exposed fast. This wasn't some freak situation that came out of nowhere. Everyone knew Chase D'Amour was bigger. Everyone knew he was going to lean, clinch, and turn it into a grind. Everyone knew the pace would be uncomfortable, yet Andrew Tate showed up looking ready for a clean, controlled early fight, not a long war. That's not bad luck. That's not age. That's preparation failure, plain and simple. People keep blaming Tate's age, but that's honestly the laziest explanation.
I knew it would be hard to have if I'm gonna come back, I need to fight some other kid.
Hey, real quick, look at, hey boys, right here behind us. You get a selfie real quick behind all the fighters, everybody. Right here.
Oh, Tristan can't fight again.
Oh, hi. Good to see you.
Right here, you still got the light? Where?
Yeah, right here. Brother, let's give you a handshake. Good to see you.
Good man, son, how you doing?
Good to see you. I'll wait for you.
I need you in court to tell the judge. Why are you there? You know, like, I'm in court and the judge is talking shit. I'm like, you weren't even there. What the fuck do you know?
The other guy is dead.
Yeah.
Fighters compete well into their late 30s and even 40s all the time when their training actually matches the reality of the matchup. Tate didn't lose because his body suddenly quit on him. He lost because he didn't build an engine for the worst-case scenario. You don't train for when everything goes perfectly. You train for when things go sideways fast. The moment the fight crossed that line, the cracks showed immediately. There was no buffer, no second gear, no fallback plan. Once the pressure stayed on, the situation exposed itself in real time. Chase, on the other hand, did exactly what he needed to do. He stuck to the game plan, stayed disciplined, and let the fight come to him. He didn't chase flashy moments. He didn't hunt for a knockout. He simply kept making Tate uncomfortable long enough for the conditioning gap to become obvious. By the later rounds, the outcome felt inevitable. The pressure never left. The pace never dropped. Tate kept fading, and Chase kept working. After the fight, Tate actually handled the loss better than many expected. He didn't blow up. He didn't immediately reach for excuses. He accepted the decision and moved on. But over the next few days, the narrative shifted. Instead of keeping it simple and saying, "I lost, I wasn't prepared for that kind of fight," we got long explanations about mindset, spirit, and personal lessons. Reflection is fine, but over-explaining is usually a sign someone is struggling to accept reality. If you truly understand why you lost, you don't need a 40-minute breakdown to explain it. One thing Tate kept repeating was that he got tired but didn't fully understand why. That statement alone explains everything. Fatigue in boxing is never random. It comes from pressure, pace, inefficiency, or lack of conditioning. The fight was explaining the problem in real time. Tate just didn't want to hear it. Another pattern was downplaying Chase's impact while still acknowledging the clinch work. But that's not an excuse, that's the sport. Heavyweights don't fight pretty. They fight effective. Leaning, clinching, draining energy, that's how the division works. The most concerning part of Tate's post-fight response wasn't the loss itself. It was the refusal to fully focus on where things actually went wrong. Instead of breaking down the camp, the sparring, or the conditioning strategy, the focus shifted toward abstract ideas. That's dangerous because if the takeaway isn't that the preparation didn't match the challenge, then nothing changes. This fight should be a wake-up call, not just for Tate, but for anyone stepping into competition off reputation alone. Combat sports don't care who you used to be. They care about what you've done recently and how well you prepared. Tate still has options. He can reassess, rebuild the camp, and train for reality if he truly wants another fight. Or he can walk away and accept that this chapter might be finished. There's no shame in either choice. The only real mistake would be pretending this fight didn't expose real issues. At the end of the day, the fight doesn't lie. Chase came prepared, Tate didn't. No amount of mindset talk changes that. So what do you think? Was this a conditioning failure, a camp failure, or a mix of both? Did Tate underestimate the fight or overestimate where he's at now? Like, subscribe, share, drop your comments down below, and I'll see you on the next one.